Thanks for joining us for today's live Q&A. If you've got questions, put it in the comments below. Today we're going to be harvesting from our classic, our original Flowhive, and also going to be showing you how to do a super lifter when you've got an ideal box in the stack on this hive down here. So stay tuned for that. Think of your questions, put it in the comments. Trace will read those out and we'll see if we can answer them for you. So let's just harvest a little bit of honey from this classic here. Now we are in a bit of a dry time, so we'll only harvest one frame. Now there's not a whole lot showing in the window, but we know we've still got a little bit of honey here to harvest, and we're expecting a bit of a flow as the paper bark kicks in. You can see nectar down the cells here. Give us a thumbs up if you can see that nectar. Also let us know whereabouts in the world you are tuning in from. Super interesting to us. We've got 100 and something thousand Flowhives all over the world, and it's really nice to know where you are. And also let us know what the nectar season or honey flow is like in your area. Are you getting a lot of honey, or is it drought and there's not much honey about? So while you think of your questions, I'm just inserting this little tube. When you do that, make sure the little tongue's at the bottom. And then we're inserting the key. If you want to harvest a little bit of a frame and leave the rest for the bees, you can just insert it a little way, turn it to a 90, and you'll get some honey. If you want to harvest the whole frame, you insert it further and keep turning it like that. So that makes it nice and adjustable. In those lean times, you can still harvest a little bit of honey for you and your family and leave the rest for the bees, which is an advantage of the Flowhive over conventional beekeeping, where you tend to harvest a whole lot of honey at once in a batch, because it's such an ordeal to go through that conventional harvesting process in the shed with the centrifuge and all of that. So nice just to harvest a little bit, leave the rest for the bees in those leaner times, or leave it all for the bees. Now it's been a bit of a cold night, so the honey's flowing slow today. Pretty soon we should see it coming down that tube and into our jars. Now these are a nice new little jar we've got. If you haven't seen those, various different patterns we've got that show up a nice print. We've got light prints, dark prints, depending on what colour honey you've got. It's nice to have those options. Okay, so down here we're going to be using our super lifter on the ideal, and you notice we've got the typical setup with the deep brood box and the honey super on top, and then an ideal in between. It also works if you've got the ideal on top. It's just about getting your configuration right with the screws. So we're going to show you all about that. If we come down here, so with our super lifter, the important thing to note is the distance between these load point screws. So the super lifter will be connecting the lower bracket here and the upper bracket there. Now with an ideal, instead of being central in the box like this one is, you move it up one if you're going to be opening between the lower brood box and the ideal. And you can get all the configurations by using the other side. So if you want to open between here and here, then this would be in the lower position and this one will be central. So let's have a look. This is our super lifter if you haven't seen it. Again, questions in the comments below. My father and I spent a long time designing this over the last 7 years and fine-tuning and perfecting it. Early models we had the feedback that it was a bit slower, and we wanted it to be easier and faster, and we've finally achieved that. It's been getting amazing comments. If you've got a super lifter already, chime in, let us know what you think. I'm going to put my bee veil on because the moment I actually set up the lifter, it's going to be opening the hive. So make sure you've got your zip up in the middle, the 2 zips across, and the Velcro over the top. Bee stings on your face aren't fun. That's why you see beekeepers really wearing their veils and their hoods. Now, if you're lighting a smoker and you're in the southern parts of Australia, it's an extreme dry time. Here it's been really wet, so we're not too worried, but good practice to put your smoker on a garbage bin lid like that so that any embers don't set fire to the tinder around. Get it really going. You want to blow a few puffs of smoke into the hive. Been a bit of a cold night, the bees are slow this morning. And that can just stay there so that those returning foragers get a whiff of smoke and it helps calm them. So we can choose whether to open here or here. Let's go for lifting the top box, the roof, and the ordeal. I called it an ordeal, the ideal. Together. It can be an ordeal to work out where the screws go, but once you've got it, then you're ready to go. So use the position here and the position at the top to then, when you set it up like this, you need to be able to get over the top of the screw. So that's kind of your measurement, if you like. Making sure you can get your load point screws over here and here. So if all else fails, just have a look at that. And another bit that is ideal is having this point at the top bracket somewhere below this joint. Can work just above, but it's better to have it about there. And we've got all of these instructions in the manual for you. Now, this is well stuck together by the bees, but if I just lift this with one hand, it's actually quite easy. That's one of the comments we're getting, is no matter how stuck their boxes, people were thinking, no, it can't work when the boxes are really stuck. But it actually, with that leverage, you can rip boxes apart if you want to. So it's very powerful in terms of its leverage force, the way we've designed it here, and it will open even the most stuck boxes. Okay, next, notice how there's this bee gap here. Well, let's open the hive for the bees to come out, and that's why I put my bee veil on before setting this up. And this becomes the convenient stand. You want to kick that in like that. And one added extra here is when you're lifting more than a single box, or even if you just appreciate lighter lifts, these handles are fantastic. You want to put it on the lower point, and basically we've used the same load point screws, so you don't have to take anything out of the hive to connect them. You then slip it over the top like that. Now, this one's a little bit stiff there. There we go. And then, once you've got it well over the load point screw, you simply do up this nice brass wing nut, and that's it. You're ready. Now you could do one of them or two of them, but it really makes that lift even easier. I'm lifting with just one finger there. And away you go. Now, it can be useful when you've got the handles just to step down the side of the hive and let it rest. And here we are in the brood nest to do some beekeeping. If you've got any questions, put it in the comments and we'll get to answering those as we go. A little bit of smoke's useful, and just to give the bees a little calming. Now, once we get in here, we'll be able to have a good look at what's going on. Going sideways first is a great idea because that really loosens up your frames and you're able then to lift them up like that. Okay. Getting that first frame out there. Let's have a look. What have we got? A whole lot of young open brood. So that's pretty cool to see. We probably have to jump around this side to see that. Give us the thumbs up if you can see the shining white larvae down the cells. Can you see that? We got the sun angle right. Let's go around a little bit more this way. Can you see the shining white larvae down the cells? Maybe I should shake the bees off so you get a better look. Now if you want to shake the bees off something, then a short, sharp shake is what you need to do. There it is there. And now, from where my head is, you get a good little glint of that white larvae down the cell. And that's the caterpillar phase if you like, although they're stationary, so the worker bees are feeding them. And after about 11 days, they will then spin a silk cocoon around themselves. The bees will help cap that off, and then they'll go through their metamorphosis. And about day 21, they'll be emerging into the hive as a fluffy little baby bee ready to do the chores of the hive. And one of their first chores is cleaning out the cells they came out of. Very cool. Good to see a whole lot of young larvae there. So we know we've got a laying queen, which is one of the first things you're doing when you're looking in a hive, making sure your hive is queen right, which means you've got a laying queen in your hive. Any questions coming in?
Yeah, Cedar, just on that frame that you just had, someone just noticed the hole in the comb and just wondering, why do the bees do that in the brood frame you just had there?
Okay, so the bees will do that as they like. After all, if you just put them in a box without these frames as a guide, they will build quite wonky comb, but they will maintain their hexagon patterns and their distances between the comb surfaces. So this is a naturally drawn comb. The bees are just doing their thing, and there's no reason why they can't have a hole to go through. Some people believe they're for like communication, but I just think it's just organic structures in nature, and the bees don't necessarily want to build everything in straight lines.
Oh, great. And on the same, while you've got that frame, seeds, because it's really dark and sometimes you talk about swapping out the frames, a beekeeper's asking, if you did swap that out and cut out the dark comb, would you put the empty frame back in the middle of the brood's nest or back on the outside where you got it from?
Absolutely, great question. So it's a common thing for beekeepers to cycle out old dark comb, so we can put that towards the edge now, and when the bees have put only honey in it, which they typically will do on the edges, then you can remove that without removing any larvae or brood from the hive, cut the old dark comb out and just stick it straight back towards the middle. The bees will then redraw the wax quite quickly. Queen will be laying eggs, it gives a whole lot of fresh area, and that's a nice way to freshen up your brood nest with some new wax, and a great thing to do in springtime to alleviate that swarm trigger of the queen not finding anywhere to lay. So it'll help manage your hive in the springtime. So it's a typical thing to do, is to make more space for the queen to lay by cycling out old comb. So I can just lean that up against the hive now, and once I've got one frame out, the rest becomes a lot easier. So I can move across, and let's just have a look and see what's happening on the edge after we were just talking about it. Straight away I can feel this one's got more honey in it because it's heavy, but it's got a small patch of brood here, so we wouldn't be cycling out this one. And the other side is the same, with a little patch of brood central and the rest honey. Now I can move that across now and have a look at the next one. Okay. Let's have a look. Now, this one